Hello and welcome to Overtime Hockey Talk. My name is Mark Paul. Co-host is Justin Baker. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, we are knee deep in playoff hockey. Second round has begun. My Leafs eliminated in Game 7 overtime once a frickin' again.
At least they had a shot.
And
My Red Wings didn't even get in.
yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I certainly. What do you want to miss the playoffs or lose in the first round? I mean, this team was going to make the playoffs. We knew they would make the playoffs. So it's always it's a disappointment. Like for you not making the playoffs is disappointing. But at the beginning of the season, were you like dead set? This team's going to make the playoffs.
No, but here's the thing. So for me with the Wings, it was all about making progress, right? Go a little bit, get a little bit better. And I would assume, again, those expectations, maybe those first few years, right? I think the stat came out, what was it? 7 out of the last 8 playoff series, the Leafs have lost and, that sort of thing. And, again, that progress isn't getting there. And I just watched, an interview on TSN, and the first thing they said is, the Leafs are always talking about progress, getting better and doing this and that, but they never mentioned Stanley Cup. And I started thinking about that a little bit more. I'm like, yeah, they really don't mention that. And so is it
Like who cares about incremental
right?
progress? Just go freaking win it. I mean, nobody I guess you could say like somewhat that was the Washington Capitals, right? The Capitals were never made it past the second round, but they definitely were there. Like they weren't losing in the first round every freaking year.
Oh, of course not. They just
Like
couldn't, the Penguins.
last year at this point, that's just an aberration. Last year, yay, they won. They beat Tampa. They beat a clearly decimated Tampa team. Like that team's a shell of what they were when they beat the Leafs the year before that, and even more so now. Yeah, just I will say this. It's sad because I think they played maybe the 3 best playoff games that I've ever seen them play in games 5 through 7. No Matthews in 2 of them,
Yeah.
and they played so well defensively. It was easily it was the best defensive structured games I have ever seen this group play. Easily. Not like regular season playoffs, the best structured defense I've ever seen from this group.
Yeah. I
But
mean, there's obviously a lot of positives, a lot of good takeaways, like Matthew Nyes. I think just watching his play, he clearly is, elevating his game. And boy, William Nylander, he definitely looked dominant when he was in there, right? I think he just, I think with Matthews, Nylander, even Joseph Wall looked good when he was in there, but the problem was staying healthy, right? And yes, you could, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to point the finger, we didn't have Matthews for all 7 games, or we didn't have Nylander, so that's why we lost, yada yada yada. But ultimately in the end, especially if you're going to be a Stanley Cup team, to me, you just, injuries don't matter. You find a way to make it work, right?
yeah, I'm sure it's going to come out. Matthews something was very wrong. He didn't look very good in game 7 either. And he didn't look very good after game 2 where he totally dominated. He didn't look great the rest of the series when he played. I think that it's time. We know Sheldon Keefe's going to get canned. I cannot see a scenario where he comes back. I would be blown away if he were to come back. That would be crazy. I think there's a 50-50 chance Shanahan doesn't come back. According to Elliot Friedman, it would be he just gets fired and they don't replace him. And they just have a direct Keith Pelly, who is the president of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, direct between him and Tree Living.
Yeah.
They just eliminate that layer.
I mean, I will say True Living is the only guy I feel confident enough to say he will be back next year. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no reason you let
him
him
and
go.
Matthews are coming back
Well,
next year.
yeah, management and coaches, right? Yeah, players for sure. Absolutely. But I mean, so that's a good transition. So as far as players are concerned, I mean, you can't roll it back with the core 4 again, in my opinion. I don't see any way, especially you could even maybe throw Riley in there and just say that core 5. I don't know how you roll those 5 guys back. I know they all have no movement, no trade clauses, yada, 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 but there's no way I feel like they can go into next
Well,
season with the same group.
and ultimately, here's the reason why, is that you can talk all you want. Yeah, okay, they don't win in the playoffs. And that is a thing in and of itself. It's the fact that it's like the last 13 playoff games, they have no more than 3 goals in any one of those games, and I think they only have more than 3 a couple times. That's
Yeah,
nuts
that's a
that
crazy
you're
stat.
paying $40 million for 4 forwards, and you still can't score. There's It's not working.
JVR
Not
scored more
only
goals than Austin Matthews. Let me just put that in
mm,
perspective.
I mean, there are a lot of hindsight things for this team. I mean, I think ultimately when you look back at it, you go, "All right, Dubas really screwed the pooch on this entire team." Which Dubas in hand is he's gone, so you can't blame him anymore because he's gone. The only one left is Shanahan, and he has to take responsibility. Like, I think, has to go. I think his, like, swagger that he had in the beginning of this, like, "Toronto's gonna become a place you wanna play, and everybody's gonna be coming here, and they're gonna love it." And I'll say, I mean, yeah, Austin Matthews signed there. Mitch Marner, he already freaking lived in Toronto, so he didn't like, he wasn't gonna go anywhere. He's still Mitch Marner gets more shit from Leafs fans, and he is still in his press conference today is, "I wanna be here. I wanna win here. It's the best place to play in the world. I don't wanna leave." The guy wants to sign here. Now, the way you'll really know if he wants to sign here is if, let's see, Nylander 11.5, Matthews 13.25. Is he willing? The only way I'm willing to bring Marner back is if he takes the exact same deal, like 11 million bucks for Marner. That's
I
it.
don't even wanna give him that. Is I mean,
I think
I know you have to.
when you look at regular season, he's still really important. I mean, he still put up 85
Oh,
points
he's still a good player.
in 69 games. I mean, he's on pace for over 30 goals, over 60 assists. Like, he would have probably had 100 points had he played all 82 games. Playoffs, is he does he have the old he's like a just he just doesn't he squeezes the stick too hard. It's I don't know. I don't know what happens to him sometimes in the playoffs, because you know what? Last year, he had 14 points in 11 games of playoffs. He was not a problem in the playoffs. The year before, 8 points in 7 games. Like, this seemingly was put to bed the last couple years in the playoffs where it was more than a point per game. But he just it didn't even seem like they were doing anything to him. It's not like Marchand was all over him, or. It's not like he seemed like he was a huge target of the Bruins. He just played like absolute garbage.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's all about what have you done for me lately? So when you go back and start these negotiations, they're just gonna immediately look back at this one season, this one playoff run and say, "You couldn't get it done. We needed you. Matthews was hurt. Nylander was out for half the series. We needed you to step up big time, and you didn't. You failed us."
And you didn't. Yep.
Um,
And maybe you look at him now. See here, either you trade him, right? You have to basically beg him to take something.
you basically
Hey,
gotta say, "You're getting traded
you
or
won't get 8
sitting up
years.
in the press box." Like, those are the only 2 options. But sit
Yeah,
him up
but
in the press
you don't
box.
want it. You can't sit a guy making $11 million in the press box for no reason other than he won't accept a trade in a contract that you negotiated. Like, your team agreed to giving him a no move. And
And
yeah,
the
this
problem
team
for
is
the
just
Maple
everyone has a freaking no move.
I know
It's
there's 12
ridiculous.
people on this team have a no move or some form of it. And so you
But Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi, they're both UFAs
yeah, yeah.
anyways. But yeah, you've got like David Camp. He's a 10-team no trade list. Those things don't really matter too much when it's just basically the guys going, I don't want to go to these couple like places where I really don't want to live, but send me anywhere else. That 22 out of 32 teams, you can make a trade work for somebody like that. But yeah, I think with the emergence of Matthew Nyes, it does make you go, I mean, someone's expendable here. And if we're living in a perfect world, I would say that the person who you just look at and you go, "We can't do this again with you," it's John Tavares. It's not Mitch Marner.
Yep.
John Tavares has been the captain of this team this whole time. The captain. Does the captaincy not mean anything? Because nobody talks about Tavares and him not leading this team. That's the one thing that I don't hear anywhere is he's the captain. Yeah, okay. We hear like Tavares has missed a step. Like, he's a little slower. He's effective, but he's not. the suit. He's obviously he's not worth 11 million now. And we figured that at the beginning of this contract that the first 5 years of the contract would be pretty good. And then maybe the last two, he would start to taper off. Is he worth 11? No. Is he worth 7 or 8? Yeah. So it's not a horrible overpayment, but I would still would rather have Mitch Marner during the regular season and into the playoffs over Tavares.
Oh, 100% agree.
Because you're not gonna just trade Marner and get someone of equal value.
Well, you're never gonna get
So,
anybody of equal value, even if you trade Tavares or Marner. So,
yes, but Tavares, you're just looking to say goodbye to 11 million bucks and be able to use that for someone else, i.e. a defenseman. Like, you gotta start spending money on the back end,
yeah.
and
But here's
that's
the thing though, right? You could easily, I shouldn't say easily, but if you look at a situation with Marner, right? Obviously, you're not going to get equal value. But if you want to bring in a top four, a top two defenseman, you want to bring in maybe, a middle six forward and try to get something good in return, right? You're going to get your best return package out of a guy like Marner. Now, whether or not you go after a guy with term and money already on the books, that's a whole nother story. Or maybe you go after some top end prospects. I don't know, and then spend that money in free agency. And then, of course, with the offset of that money, you try to equal up that value as far as what you lost. But, for me, I mean, maybe, for example, I look at a team like Vegas. They've got so many guys, over 5 million bucks, and you've got Shea Theodore coming up on a contract year. So would a guy like that be willing to, would Marner be willing to go to Vegas, right? I don't think they would be able to fit his money in there. But as an example, you could trade a guy like that for Shea Theodore and save a few bucks and then use that extra money to get in a middle six forward.
yep. That's true. Yeah, you just look to trade him for somebody, and basically you're also trading to open up your cap instead.
Exactly.
That's the tricky part with the Leafs right now is Tavares and Marner both have 1 year left. After that, if this happened next year and both those guys are just UFAs, it's an easy slam dunk. Hey, Tavares, you're not coming back, or you're coming back at like 4 million bucks. If you really want to come back here and you really want to be a part of it, then you're coming back. You're not the captain anymore. See, and this is why
I
I
don't
keep
know if he's going to be the captain next year. I'm ready to move on. And you want to start.
Matthews needs to be the captain.
Absolute. It's his team.
Matt Matthews needs, or Riley. I don't care. One of the
No, I'm
two,
giving
they
it
need
to
to be the
Matthews,
captain.
but yeah,
I think Matthews has got to take it. You're making 13-2-5.
this is his team.
You've got yes, exactly. It's his team, and he's got to step up in that way too. I like I think he has a different type of swagger than John Tavares. Tavares is just so quiet, and that's not to say that he's necessarily like super quiet in the locker room, but he just is unassuming. And Matthews is anything but. Like, I just think that Tavares, he's the leadership of the team. He's been the captain this whole entire time since he got there. And it's time to pass that torch. And
It's like Marlowe to
like,
Thornton, right? It's not like one guy's
yeah,
not playing great or it's just not working out. It's, we're going to get rid of you, but it's just, hey, we just need to change things up, right? We need a little shift in dynamic.
yeah. And I don't think that it would be a huge problem. Although, yeah, I don't know. That to me, if you're going to fire the coach and if you're going to fire Shanahan, then Tavares is the easy option to be like, hey, we got a new coach coming in. GM's now been here for a year. It's time to make the team leadership changes. And I think you take that A away from Marner too. I think you take it away. I'd give it to Nylander. Dude, I mean, Nylander in the playoffs looking at Marner and being like, you can read lips, but when Marner's basically like having his little pissy
Ugh.
fit on the bench and borderline crying, it's dude, you're not in freaking juniors, and that's what he's telling him. Like, quit crying, you little bitch. Like, that was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. And now they rallied, they managed to come back. Cool. I think this team is due for some crazy changes that honestly should have happened last year. They should have done this last year. They should not have run it back again. I think they should have fired Keefe. I had said before they should have fired Keefe last year. They just all they had to do was not give him an extension. It would have been that easy. They got a new GM. It would have been easy to say, let's just bring in a different guy. The upside is I think there are a lot better coaching candidates available this
Mm.
offseason than there were last year. So I
Yeah, we
you
lost one of
bring
them
in a
today, though.
maybe a
We
what's that?
said we lost one of them today, though. Travis Green's going to Ottawa.
Travis Green, I would have been pissed if he had become the Leafs coach.
No, I don't think he's right for the Leafs
Absolutely.
either, but
Yes. I don't like Travis Green as a head coach at all. Wouldn't want him coaching my team. Good luck there, Ottawa. Your years of losing will continue.
I'm okay with that for the Red Wings' sake.
Right, yeah, for both of our
Yeah.
sake, yeah, within the division. Yeah, and we'll talk more about Travis Green as, as some of that comes out again. Yeah, we can move off the Leafs here, but any final thoughts as, the Leafs head into the offseason? I think it's gonna be bananas for a minute here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Especially I feel like it's a little bit cruel to, Sheldon Keefe comes out and talks to the media today, and then the management isn't gonna come talk until Thursday. Like, just fire the guy
Right.
and let him have it. Fire him. I like, what an awkward press conference to be like, "Hey, you're clearly getting fired. You have failed every single year.
Yeah, that's
You
rough.
like, you're a regular season success." Now, I will say this for Sheldon Keefe, I think he's gonna go get a job somewhere else, and I think that he will do really well. Like, his adjustments this year in the playoffs, like, there's nothing he can do about the last 4 years, but previous to this one, right? So, in this playoffs, what does he do? He's suffered injuries all season long and still manages, Leafs have basically 100 points by the end of the year, and he gets into the playoffs, gets down 3-1, and his team rallies, and, like, they play the best defensive hockey that they've ever played, and I think that does speak to coaching, but you can't run him back again. You just can't. Like, it's unfortunate because I think he has grown as a coach. I think he'll be a really good coach wherever he goes. It's just not gonna work anymore in Toronto.
Yeah, he'll be an assistant to somebody who's on the hot seat and take over when they're fired. That's what's gonna happen.
Yep, could very well be. Yep. Well, hey, why don't we jump into the second round now that you've allowed me to have my therapy session for the Leafs, and we'll come back to the Leafs at some point. Not in this episode, but in episodes moving forward. Let's talk Rangers Carolina because we've already seen one game already. The Rangers, of course, take game 1 and lead that series. What are your thoughts on that series just as a whole?
Boy, I'm expecting just an offensive output. Not on that scale of, Winnipeg and Colorado where they were scoring 6, 7 goals every single game, but I'm expecting a lot of fireworks, right? I expect a lot of these 4-3 games. And I wanna see Jake Gensel get going. I'll just be honest, I picked the Rangers to win this one. I think they're due. They're for anybody who's been listening, I've been picking them for the last couple of years to win the cup, and I don't think I'm shying away from that this year.
Every year we've done the show,
Yeah.
that's you just
But, I mean, to be quite honest, he's only got 1 goal through the playoffs so far, and boy, now that they're
and he had looked so good in the regular
right.
season.
Yeah, and I completely expect him to kinda open up a little bit. I think it's just gonna be a chess match. This is gonna be a lot of fun because you're gonna have I think you're gonna see guys like Alex Lafreniere and Vincent Trocheck where, they're kind of that secondary scoring in New York behind Zibanejad and Kreider, and I think it's gonna be, a duel to see who can get their guys on the ice and who can capitalize on turnovers. But for me, I always love a good goaltending battle too. If it ends up being a 2-1, 1-0 kinda series, every single game where we've got Shesterkin and Freddie Anderson standing on their heads, I'm not mad about that either, but I don't see that happening. I think these are gonna be a lot of 4-3 kinda scores.
Yeah. What the Rangers are getting that hardly anyone else is, I mean, Vincent Trocheck is absolutely ripping it up right now. He's 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points in the 5 games. And, hey, in the regular season, he had a great regular season, still a point per game. Like, he had 77 points in the 82 games, but he's just taking it to a new level. And that is something that I don't know. Like, when you look across the league and you go, all right, what other player has just taken things to the next level that maybe wasn't at that spot in the regular season? I guess maybe the only other guy that I would point to would be Wyatt Johnston for the Dallas Stars. Like, and
Love it.
both those guys equally as important to their team. I mean, Wyatt Johnston now, I believe he moved up to the first line in that game
He
7
did.
for Dallas against Vegas, takes Joe Pa's spot, and Dallas against Vegas takes Joe Pa's playing bad. It's just he's playing it such a way that you have to reward him. You takes Joe Ryder, and it's not Panarin. Like, you've gotta have that extra guy who, maybe you go on a long run, and at the end of it, I don't think Trocheck's gonna win a Conn Smythe. He'll probably slow down a little bit, but that's you need that competition for the Conn Smythe a little bit. Like, you need a team, you look at the teams at the end and you go, "Man, there's 4 or 5 guys that could win the Conn Smythe." That's when you know you have a team that can win the cup. That was Vegas last year. Like, how many players on Vegas we were like, Marchessault could win it, and Eichel could win it,
Mhm.
and Aiden Hill could win this thing, and there were a lot of different players that could win, and I think that's exactly what you need, and right now, I think for the Rangers, that would be the case. You'd be like, Zibanejad's got 10 points, and you've got Trocheck with 8, and everybody's rolling, and that's a hugely important thing, especially as you continue to move through these teams. Like, Carolina's no slouch, and we'll get to it, but the team that they'll play next is gonna be no slouch. I think it's gonna be the Florida Panthers, but there's a need for depth, and the Rangers absolutely have it. I think the Hurricanes have it too. I think this is gonna be a long series.
Yeah, and the other key X factor in all this is gonna be special teams, right? Rolling it back to the 5 games against the Islanders, Rangers went so far through 5 games, they've got a 44% power play percentage, and the Carolina Hurricanes are not killing
That's
penalties. They're sitting
ridiculous.
at 61.5% right now.
But yeah, the Rangers were 2 for 2 on the power play.
But still, that's the key factor,
Right.
right? If they can't
Hey,
shut
give
it
us a
down.
power play, we'll
Right.
score. It's like a freaking auto score. So, even though the Hurricanes only took 2 penalties, they got scored on twice. That would be if you went into a game and you said, "Hey, we're only gonna take 2 penalties tonight," you'd go, "We've got probably a pretty good chance of winning."
And that's
That is a largely a good indicator, but, yeah, the Rangers took 5 penalties and the Hurricanes didn't score once.
right, and that speaks to the depth when you talk about guys like Trocheck who are stepping up and contributing, right? Because you've got, Alex Lafreniere and Jack Roslovich on that second power play unit, and so when you can roll out 2 pretty decent units and, just in my opinion, probably have one of the top, besides Edmonton maybe, the top power play unit in the country, it's gonna be tough to stop, right? And so if Carolina, can't find a way to slow that down, and then of course they've got to, from in my opinion, the only way they're gonna beat the Rangers is if they get that secondary scoring from their third and fourth lines right now. Because Jack Drury, Kuznetsov, they need these guys to step up. They need these guys to produce because we know what both teams' top 6 can do, and they're gonna be, Seth Jarvis has been a great story so far for Carolina. And so, it's gonna be interesting to see whose bottom 6 can have the better series.
Alright. Yeah, give me your prediction. What do you think's gonna happen
7
here?
games, but I gotta go Rangers.
Yeah, I think ultimately, Shesterkin had a really tough start to the regular season. He's had a really nice playoff. I'm not gonna give him too much credit for Washington because they were Washington. They were easily the worst team that made the playoffs, and they showed it by getting swept. But still, you got to do your job, and he did his job in the first round. And I think that's likely the difference is Shesterkin. Like, yeah, they won 4-3 in their first game. He didn't have to do a ton. Still made one more save than Frederik Andersen. I got to think there's going to be a game where he absolutely dominates. And Carolina is that team that even though they have Svechnikov this year and they've got Gensel, you're still looking at it like, are they really going to be able to break out here against this goalie? I don't know. I don't think so.
Mm.
But I'm rooting for the Hurricanes.
Who?
I have some minor vested interest. Like, I've got family who has season tickets, so I'm just gonna root for them because of them. Like, I like to see the pictures coming in.
Okay.
Hey, we're sitting here watching the game. So I'm rooting for the Hurricanes. I also, I forgot to mention this. Are the Rangers your girlfriend team? Is that who you officially locked hands
Oh,
with?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I don't think Carolina might be my Eastern Conference girlfriend team.
Okay.
I think that's who I've got to link on. Like, it can't be Boston, and I still am, like, sour at Florida, and it's not gonna be the Rangers because we can't be dating the same person. So it's gotta be Carolina in the East. But speaking of that Bruins-Panthers,
First, you didn't tell me
Um,
how many games.
oh, I think it's going
Okay.
7.
Yep.
I think this is gonna be a tight series. And anytime it goes 7, anyone can win.
Yep.
That's just a fact. All right. Bruins Panthers. They're playing tonight. By the time you're watching this, probably they've already played game 1. I'm wondering what the Bruins are gonna be like playing 2 days after that OT game 7 win. You're coming off a huge high, and the Panthers haven't played in over a week. So, I'm wondering, like, where are the Panthers here compared to the Bruins? Is the rest what's gonna help them here in game 1? The Bruins gotta take it to them and just take that momentum into this game, or can they? That's, I think, the most interesting thing about game 1 is can they ride the wave a little bit? Because I think that's the only shot they have against Florida. Like, they gotta win this game 1.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, I think you have to, but for me, if they're gonna win game run 1, it's gonna be Jeremy Swayman, right? He's gotta stand on his head because, I looked at the numbers from that series and you looked at that Toronto-Boston series, man, it seemed like every game it was 300 hits. Everybody was hitting. So you have to imagine that Florida knows that, right? They're gonna come in, they do what they do, they always hit, right? They're just Matthew Tkachuk's gonna go out there and be like a bull in a china shop and hit everything that moves, and, if I'm Boston, I'm relying on Jeremy Swayman here to get them through game 1.
Yeah, and I mean, equally, Florida will be relying on Bobrovsky, who's gonna be real good. I mean, they know how to play in front of him, and if there's one team in the playoffs that knows exactly how to play in front of their goalie, it is the Florida Panthers. Like, perfect placement in front of him, and they provide him all the rest he needs, and I think that this rest is gonna be real like, super important for him. He got a little bit of time in between these series, and he'll come in, lights a bl like, just ready to go. The guy for the Panthers that I think will be super important in this series is gonna be Barkov,
Mm,
more so than the previous series with against Tampa Bay, just because of Boston's lack of depth at the center position. I think Barkov more so than Matthews was hurt, we know that. Tavares, he's not really an advantage other than in the faceoff circle, but I think that Barkov is gonna really take it to the Bruins. I think he's gonna have a great series against the Boston Bruins. I think this one's done in 5. I think Florida is just gonna run through the Bruins. Like, the Panthers beat them, 3 straight last year after being down 3-1? I think they might win 3 more in a row before the Bruins win another game.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, like you said, Boston's gotta come out here storming in game 1 because, I know he's ruled out for tonight for game 1, but at some point in this series, I think you're gonna get Sam Bennett back, and if you're not going deep, if you have to go deep in this series, right, he's an added X factor to this Panthers team, right?
Yep.
He'll probably come in on 3rd line and, they'll keep Lundell up there on that 2nd line, but still, he's dangerous, right? Even at 60, 70% versus, a lot of guys at this Boston Bruins, 3rd and 4th line. Yeah, for me, they've got to come out storming and Swayman's got to steal one early. But I'm with you. I think Florida is just going to be too dangerous. They're going to be too jacked up, ready to, they see their path is clear. They don't have to play Toronto. I think they kind of are a little relieved by that, in my opinion. I think they weren't prepared to go for such a, you know, an offensive dynamo like Toronto, at least coming into the playoffs. That was the thought.
Yeah, that offensive dynamo that can't
Yes.
score more than 2 goals in a game.
Yeah, I think if you have to get into a chess match and a hitting match with, the likes of Marchand and Pasta, I think Florida's gonna come out on top.
Yeah, agreed. And Marchand had a really nice beginning of that series with the
Mhm.
Leafs, but he definitely had it toned back, and I think I don't know why this happens, but it was, like, earlier in the series, the refs were like, "Oh, yeah, this guy." And then later in the series, they're like, "Oh, yeah, this guy, we've got him. We don't worry, we're watching him now." Yeah, like, "Where were you earlier in the series here?" But, yes, Marchand, I think in order for the Bruins to win, he's gonna have to be really effective in any game the Bruins win,
Yeah.
really effective. And I don't know that he can do it by himself. So, Pasternak, I think hey, kudos to him. The head coach calls him out. Jim Montgomery says, "We need Pasternak to show up," and he scores that overtime winning goal. Hey, maybe Samsonov should have tried to poke check. Like, even I'm watching this TV, I'm going, "Oh, somebody's gonna play that puck. Oh, no, nobody wants to play. Okay, I
Mhm.
guess the game's over. See you later."
Yeah, Pasta's gonna get his points. There's no doubt there, and I think Marchand will even get a few buckets, but, to me, I just don't think they've got enough in the tank to if you get into a
Yep.
scoring battle with Florida, I just don't think it's gonna work out. And even if you end up getting in these defensive games, with Florida, I still think they've got more pieces that can play both ways that are just way too dangerous, especially if you get Sam Bennett back. I mean, you've got to me, the one guy I'm looking at and expecting and thinking he's gonna explode in this series is gonna be Vladimir Tarasenko. I mean, the guy's got, 1 goal right now through 5 games, but he's still got 3 points and only playing 13, 14 minutes a night. He's sitting on that third lineup. I'm expecting him to blow up if he gets a few extra minutes.
All right. All right. Okay, yeah, so we both got a quick series there for the Panthers, and let's move over to the Western Conference. Let's talk Dallas and Colorado because this is the freaking heavyweight championship. Like this may this isn't okay. Let's put it this way. I'll also, Vancouver could very well beat Edmonton. I we'll talk about that series last, but if Dallas goes and beats Colorado and Edmonton happens to beat Vancouver, like, to go through Vegas, Colorado, Edmonton, probably the 3 best teams in the Western
Yep.
Conference besides Dallas, that they would have to go through, and if they were to go to the finals with that, I would say that is the hardest schedule that anyone has ever gone to the finals with.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas is I mean, yes, they had a bunch of injuries last year or this past season, but to me, man, they're better than a number 8 seed, right? They're probably the best number 8 seed I've ever seen in the playoffs for a long time.
Surely.
For Dallas to have to go through that is is gonna be a challenge, right? So for me, right now, I'm looking at that Dallas-Colorado series, and the one difference I'm looking at is, Vancouver or Winnipeg just couldn't slow down that speed that Colorado had, right? Nathan McKinnon was just barreling through that neutral zone, and I think Dallas does a very good job. We saw that in the Vegas series, right? They slowed down this Vegas team in the neutral zone, and anytime I remember watching the last, 3, 4 minutes of that game 7 where they were trying to rotate that puck, but anytime it hit someone's stick, man, a Dallas player was right on top of them, and they immediately have to move it. Couldn't get anything set up, and so for Colorado, it's gonna be problematic, and then when you have to go to your depth guys on that 3rd and 4th line, I just think Dallas is too deep for them as far as, when you look at the forward and defensive units.
The biggest difference is gonna be that Dallas has the speed that Winnipeg doesn't have.
Mhm.
They also have the offensive ability that they don't have, and yeah, like you said, Dallas is so deep, and, maybe the advantage we thought that Winnipeg had was in net. Do you know after that series that Connor Hellebuck said, "I played the best I've ever played." He felt like he was in the frickin' zone, and he was giving up 5 or 6 goals a night. And that isn't even that has nothing to do with Hellebuck and everything to do with, A, the Jets' awful defense that would just look like frickin' pylons out there for the Avalanche to skate around and practice, and B, it was just the Avalanche just had a game plan. Once they let up 7 goals in that first game, and Georgiev looked terrible. And it could have spelled disaster.
Mhm.
Our backup goalie ends up getting sick before game 2, and so Georgiev has to go back in, and the rest is history. He plays great the rest of the way, but Colorado adjusted. They made adjustments, and you know that one of the funniest quotes, I don't know if this quote happened during the playoffs or if it was just like a quote that was said at some point by their head coach. Why am I
Rick
blanking on
Bowness?
when
Yeah.
bonus? Um, did he get fired?
No, he retired.
Oh, he did retire. I didn't see that. I just went to Cap Friendly and there's no coach listed, and I was like, "Damn it, what's his name? You failed me, Cap Friendly."
Oh.
Yes, Rick Bonus. Yeah, I didn't see that he retired.
Yeah, and I think that's part of
Uh,
right, he had that leave of absence this year, and I thought that was part of the
yes,
problem.
yes.
Uh,
He had a hard
yeah, just
really hard
mentally, he
like, a
just
lot of
maybe
family
wasn't
on it.
there. But to your quote,
But he is quoted as saying, "I would rather lose my way than change."
mm,
I'm like, That doesn't work."
no, that's
That's just not that's dumb. You have to make adjustments. That is how the NHL there are no coaches that win the Stanley Cup that just go, "Alright, this is the way we wanna play. Goodbye." Like, why are you coaching? If you're not gonna make an adjustment, what the frick's the point of a coach? So, that's the issue that I see there, and, yeah, I think that the difference is Dallas is going to make adjustments. Like, they are not going to allow themselves to just shut their eyes, stick their head in the sand, and hope that all is good. Pete DeBoer will make the changes that they need to if things aren't going well.
Yep.
And they did. They were down 2-0 in that
Mhm.
series.
Yep. Now, in my opinion, you don't want to go down 2-0 against
No.
Colorado. That's going to be spell disaster, especially in your home building. You don't want to lose them both at home. But if they got to go 7 games, you might as well just give it to Dallas because Pete DeBoer doesn't lose.
All right. There it is. So do you think Dallas takes this series then in 7?
No, I think it's going to go down in 6.
6,
Yeah,
okay.
I think, you know what, as much as we saw Georgiev kind of rebound and play some decent hockey the rest of the series, that initial first game did not give me a lot of faith in him the rest of the way. And, Dallas being able to make changes and have the depth they do, I just think if they have to get into a little bit of a chess match and scoring fight, yeah, Georgiev's not going to do well. And to me, when you look at the flip side of it, Ottinger, to me, he's a guy I think could steal this series for them if need be.
Mhm. If he keeps playing the way he
Mhm.
is, absolutely. I'll say this, Colorado took a goaltender who is the best in the world and said that he was playing better than he ever has in his life and made him look like he belonged in juniors. So, with that said, I don't know that it matters how well Ottinger plays. It's definitely gonna be about controlling Colorado. I think this particular group of Avalanche, I think they're so strong on the top end that I don't know the and their depth, they've kind of figured it out with Middlestat really coming on.
Good.
That really has opened up the depth that they have at forward. It's put guys into the right positions, and I think Dallas is really good. I think they might still be a year away from beating a group like this Avalanche team. I think that Vegas team was I think, like, Mark Stone was still a little he had lost a little bit. He was still coming back from that injury, and he hadn't played, and, like, I think maybe some of the LTIR stuff caught up with them a bit. I also think they went on a really long run last year, and we forget because Tampa just, like, kinda shrugged off like, "Meh, whatever. We won the cup last year, and we don't care. We don't get tired." I think we forget that most teams don't win 2 years in a row because it's so freaking hard to do.
Yeah, and the other
So,
part is too,
I think
it takes guys time to adjust, right? So you bring in Tomas Hertl, you bring in Mantha, you bring in Hanifin. So you have all these star caliber players, and you're trying to make it work within essentially within a couple of weeks. And it's just, again, some guys just need more time than others. Some guys can come in and just fit right in like a glove. But for this Vegas team, it was clear to me that Stone wasn't ready, and the rest of these guys just weren't. Tomas Hertl just kind of looked out of place a little bit.
yeah, he looked good in the first 2 games, but then they exposed him a little
Yeah.
bit, and that's the difference. Yeah, I think they come back, they'll be strong again next year, they'll figure out their cap situation, and they'll be great. I mean, Eichel was fantastic, and yeah, they're still a great team. I mean, that was 2 teams that coulda won the Stanley Cup, and only one of them can come out of
Yep.
there. I'm picking Colorado to win this series. I'm picking them in 7.
7, all right. I
7.
like it.
Ugh. I think high-end player McKinnon's freaking possessed right now, so I don't think Dallas is gonna beat him. Okay, let's go Edmonton, Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks have home ice advantage. I don't think we would have thought that at the beginning of the season that would have ever happened, but because of the Oilers' bad start, if they had played at the clip that they played after about 15 games once they fired Jay Woodcroft, I think that they would have been still had home ice advantage, but alas, Zach Hyman with 7 goals in round 1. Pretty solid for him. He's tied with Valerie Nichushkin for the league lead right now. And the Edmonton Oil or the Vancouver Canucks, I believe, are still going to be playing Shelovs
Mhm.
to start this series. And yeah, the Oilers still have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl last I checked. So, is the third string goaltender for the Vancouver Canucks going to be able to hold back this guy who has 11 assists in 5 games first round? 11 assists, not 11 points, 11 assists.
Oh, good grief. Listen, I gotta tip my cap to Sheloffs. What he did in Vancouver was great.
100%. Yeah.
But he has not seen an offense like this in the playoffs yet, right? Even though it's only been 1 round, right? Uh, he
He has not seen an offense yet.
Right.
The
He
Predators don't have they had nothing.
No, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. That top line of Forsberg, Nyquist, and Riley's is good, but it's it wouldn't even be the second line on this Edmonton Oilers team. So when you got, Draisaitl at the second C and McDavid at first, so there's no way. So you've got a 50 plus goal scorer coming in, a guy who put up 100 assists, another 100-point player on that second line. So it's gonna be dangerous. And
Well, yeah.
Stewart's
Evan Bouchard
oh
is
my gosh,
rolling.
yeah, just rolling right now. The biggest problem for me is when you look at Vancouver, what they did on offense against Nashville was just almost non-existent. It was like they were only putting up 17 shots a game for a while there. So, I mean, Edmonton could score 17 goals in a game. So you better be prepared to shoot the puck and, hold the puck a little bit more because it's going to be a long series for Sheloss if Edmonton's controlling the play.
Yeah, and I think, Shelov's coming in was like, "I guess I'm here and I'm in," and you go in it but now there's pressure. Now you've had some time to think about it, and now you're like, "Oh shit, I'm in the second round of the playoffs. This isn't let's see what happens." And there's no pressure because, "Hey, I'm the 3rd string guy, it's fine, I'm coming in for a game. Oh, I got another start, I'm gonna come in for this one." Now it's, "Hey, just so you know, you're actually our guy now." And that's a different vibe. Like, we've seen that time and time again, where a guy gets thrown in, he does fantastic, and then he becomes the guy, and then he is very quickly not the guy
Right.
anymore. So and it's not to say that Artur Shilovs is gonna just crumble under the pressure or anything, that, like, he's gonna be terrible, but like you said, this is a much different team,
Yeah, and if you look
and
even if you look at the regular season, right, I look at the 4 games he got into. He played Arizona twice, Anaheim once, and Vegas once.
an 881 save percentage. Now, I'll say that, hey, in the playoffs, things tighten up a little
Mhm.
bit and
Sure do.
and teams are much more focused defensively, and I got to imagine that the Canucks are going, "Guys, it's Shelovs in net. We we can't play like Demko's back there. We gotta get
Yeah, yeah.
forwards are gonna be tighter to the defense. We gotta have a little bit more layering here to protect him, and plus, everyone's blocking a million shots in the playoffs, so it's a little different for the goaltenders, but and so that style can help some goalies, but I I just cannot see a scenario where he is phenomenal again.
No, I don't even think he'll be average. I think the leash is gonna be very short with this guy. I mean, Casey DeSmith is backing up.
Yeah.
They're gonna go to him
Yeah, you can go back.
very quickly, and, I don't know where Demko is as far as his injury, but, they said he might be back for round 2. They better hope. They want any chance, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yep. Alright, who are you going with in this
I'm
series?
taking Edmonton, of course, but I think Vancouver will take a game, and this will go 5.
Okay, I'm going 6. I think that Vancouver is gonna surprise them in a couple games because they can score. Like, if Vancouver can get that offensive juggernaut going, I think they can keep pace with Edmonton, and Edmonton in a couple games against LA, their offense kind of lagged a bit. They won one game 1-0. But I think ultimately, there's a big rivalry between these 2 teams, like, proximity is everything. They're both Canadian teams. There's gonna be a lot of pride on the line. They're gonna be really fun
Oh,
games,
yeah.
and I think Vancouver will find a way to make something happen, and if Demko comes back, then, that's a for sure, I think. If we could guarantee Demko comes back in this series, do you give him 1 game that he
Oh,
steals?
absolutely. I would say that first
Yep,
game back for sure, he's gonna
yep,
take it, no matter if they're in Edmonton or Vancouver, and then I would probably say the series could go 6 or 7 at that point, but
yep.
for me, if the other big X factor in all this is not only Demko, but Elias Pettersson, he's gotta play way better than he did against Nashville or else they're gonna be, like I said, done in 5 or 4.
Okay. Alright. There's the second round for you. We'll check back. We'll see how things are going next week. You can follow us on TikTok now at Overtime Hockey Talk, and you can find us on Instagram as well, Twitter as well, all the things. Subscribe to the show. Justin, any final thoughts before we jump out of here?
Oh, boy, I'm looking forward to an off season here for the Maple Leafs, let me just put it that way.
Ooh. You know, yes, like, it's almost like I would be looking forward to it if I were playing, like, a video game and I got to tweak this team and make it what I
Yes.
wanted, turn the trade difficulty down to easy, and then go ham. Yeah. It'll be certainly tons of news. It's gonna be fun. It will be fun. If you can pull yourself away from everything that's happened, there's gonna be big changes, and there's gonna be a lot of hype because of the changes. Like, people are gonna, "Oh, finally, they made the moves they need to make, and now the Leafs are gonna be awesome." So, we'll see. That's coming. Alright, thanks for listening, and we will see you guys very soon.